Hi guys, welcome back to the second episode of the DraftDiff podcast, the official DraftBuff podcast. So, as we said, we're back and we'll be breaking down the main moves that we saw in free agency so far, as well as giving some expectations and predictions for what we can see for the EU and NA teams going into the next year, which should be an interesting one. So, as before, I'm Kepri, but call me Max. Joining us from the land of high-level League of Legends is Guy. Straight from Barcelona into your ears is Jorge. And joining us today is Jacob, also known as Gordo, who will join us from the Windy City, Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Can you introduce yourself briefly to people, Jacob?
Let
us know what sort of stuff you're involved with.
You may know me. I did some content for DraftBuff over this last split. I wrote some of those IPR articles that were up in the app for a while. I also do some casting in some of the low-level amateur scenes around NA. Did some LHGUL, some LHGPL, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Yeah, I've watched a couple of your bits that you've shared on Twitter, and yeah, they're really, really good. We'll leave a link to his Twitter down in the description. Go and check him out because we have
all of fantasy takes all season, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, next Captain Flowers on our hands, hopefully. But yeah, okay, so let's get stuck straight into the meat and potatoes. So free agency. In case you missed it, or if you are a League of Legends fan, you were living under a rock for the past couple of weeks. Free agency has opened and it is a massive free-for-all at the moment. We've seen so many moves. I think it's got to be nearing 100 or so roster changes now already, and there's still loads coming through day by day. You know, some of them have been expected for quite a while. About, oh yeah, you know, certain sources have been sharing these for a couple of weeks now, so we're expecting to see these move as soon as free agency opened. But then some just came completely out of the woodwork and surprised absolutely everyone, and left quite a few teams sort of panicking and like, oh no, what do we do now? Our greatest player has left, which can be said for more than one of the teams in EU and NA. So yeah, let's start off. We can't really talk about free agency without talking about Perkz. Arguably, probably the biggest move, I'd say, going from G2 to Cloud9 for around 5 million. You know, massive pickup for C9. I think we can all agree, like, this is huge for them. Perkz is a player that pretty much sort of guarantees championships. You know, he's the Western GOAT. Everyone loves him over here. It's such a big pickup. But where do we think we can see C9 going with Perkz instead of Nisqy in the mid lane? You know, what expectations would we have for this team going into 2021? Should we start with Yugi?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, of course, a massive pickup, like not only for like the performance side, but he's such a huge personality. I can assume that Cloud9 is gonna try to recoup some of the investment they put into Perkz in form of merchandise and new sponsors, which is always something that esports team should be looking. But on the performances side, I think he's definitely upgrades compared to Nisqy. I think he played mid lane in the spring split this year, and he was as ever is in form, dominated the EU. He was like the best performing mid laner in the EU before returning to AD carry. Definitely we can see Cloud9 more threatening in mid lane. Nisqy was never the hyper carry we thought he could be at C9. My question, however, Fudge at the top line, he's gonna be the rookie there, kind of learning the ropes. Someone with a lot of a high ceiling, but it's still an incognito compared to other players. We still have a explosive jungler such as Blabber. And that's something very interesting about Perkz synergy with his jungler. It's gonna be something can literally make or break this team. I rather believe it's gonna work out well. I think they're players that complement each other's style quite well. But there's always a chance that things just don't click. We have a new coaching staff at C9 as well. Things are now might take a little to adapt, but at the end of the day, still NA. The level that Perkz is used is a little lower. All due respect to NA, but you can't compare LEC to the LCS as a whole right now. So I pretty much think Perkz has higher chance to smurf, and Cloud9 is gonna enter this season as like alongside Team Liquid as one of the favorites to win this season. Like we're not gonna have splits anymore, but to win the season. It's just a matter of how long it's gonna take until this team actually clicks. But I have faith it will.
Absolutely. Jorge, would you agree with this? What do you think, is Cloud9 gonna be a team that is gonna click straight away, or are they gonna have some teething issues?
I mean, we need to wait and see how, as Guy say, how they work together. I think it's impossible to predict if they are going to click right away or they will need some time to adjust. But I do think Cloud9 is looking to be a champion contender. I think they will have, the tools. With Bjersen retiring, I don't know that. I don't think there is anyone on the mid lane on NA that can, challenge Perkz as a mid laner. And I think definitely Cloud9 will definitely be one of the favorite teams to win LCS next year, at least for me, from my perspective.
Absolutely. Jacob, as our resident North American, yeah, not the accolade that you would probably want after Worlds, but would you agree, can this Cloud9, can anyone match up against this Cloud9 team? And do you think that with Perkz in the mid lane, Cloud9 will be able to break the curse that, well, arguably only they've been able to break before? In 2018, they made it to the semis. Do you think Cloud9 will be able to break the curse and make NA more of a world's dominant region?
Oh, I hope so. But as Gui already said, I do agree with what Gui said, that I think Perkz is going to smurf on this region. I think Perkz is I have a lot of faith in him to be successful on a variety of rosters and even a variety of positions, as he's shown us over the course of the last few years. I do have some slight concerns just based on what we've seen out of EU imports coming to NA for a while. He is likely going to be a player that expects excellence and that expects success, especially coming over to NA. So if things start to go bad, I'm a little bit kind of concerned about how he might react, especially given, it's a worse solo queue environment. It's probably going to be, a slightly more lax environment in regards to who his teammates are and in regards to like the level they're going to be expected to perform at versus where he's been on that huge veteran G2 roster for the last couple of years. But assuming that those don't become major issues that start affecting performance on stage, I have Cloud9 as above Team Liquid in my power rankings, and I think Perkz is going to be a huge difference maker in this region.
Absolutely. So let's quickly move on to the next massive one that we want to talk about. Rekkles. This was a real big shock to see. Gui, could you give us a quick intro to this?
Well, as we might know, Rekkles left G2 Academy, formerly known as Fnatic, to join G2 Esports, the main spot. Now kind of establishing Fnatic's reputation as a feeder team to G2. No, just joking around, but that's like huge news. So obviously, it just showed Rekkles arguably received offers from NA as well, but he showed he's there, to win. And I think we can always all respect him, for his decision to think that G2 is the best team right now that can offer him the condition to lift a worse trophy. Obviously, as a star roster, poised to dominate EU. I think they are I think they're gonna smurf easily throughout the spring split and summer in EU. With the big question remaining now, how this team can perform internationally. Rekkles played very well at Worlds. He was alongside Hylissang, he was the pillars for a Fnatic that showed some problems in the top side of the map, especially on the mid lane and top lane. But pretty much in the series against top Rekkles and Hilly, they beat actually Huanfang and SwordArt in the 2v2 in most games. So I'm actually super excited to see him at G2 in laning with Mickey. They are good friends already, and of course Rekkles is good friends with Caps because they play the Fnatic. So the team has all the shapes of a true European super team. It's just that in the case they underperform or they don't do as what they expected, there's also a higher chance this team's just gonna explode after the end of the year. So it's like, it's literally a team like either go big or go home, for G2 this year. I think, like if G2 doesn't win Worlds next year, well, we might start to ask, okay, how the hell can you win awards without, like, if this squad doesn't work up, what can work for you, So excited to see, obviously, Rekkles G2, and hope for the best, honestly. I think fine, this needs to be the shot, this needs to be the chance. So, and if it doesn't work, there's a higher probability, they're just gonna go boom, like in a good old super team fashion.
Absolutely. And Jacob, we have seen that Fnatic are going to be signing Upset. That's been announced. It's just pending Riot approval. He will be replacing Rekkles. Just some thoughts quickly. What do we think we can expect from Upset? Do we think he is going to be able to fill Rekkles' shoes as much and as quickly as is needed, or is this Fnatic team gonna struggle for a bit?
I think, given the situation that Fnatic finds themselves in, which is that Rekkles is leaving and you can't sign Perkz, and there's nothing you can do about either of those facts, I think Upset is probably the best you can do. Realistically, I'm curious to see how Upset's going to do for a few reasons. I'm curious about seeing him on a team that isn't good because of him, like a team that isn't going to drop 2 letter grades just without Upset on it, because I feel like those are the kinds of rosters that he's found himself on for the last couple of years. I'm excited to see him kind of work himself into a system that's already been established and that already has 4 players who've played together before coming back, which does seem to be the case for the rest of this Fnatic roster. I'm not too concerned about them struggling, just because I think the core 4 that they're keeping are very good and have proven to be very good in this LEC league for a while. I think they are competing for second in a way, but I feel like that's kind of how it's been the last few years, even with Rekkles. And I don't think G2's gotten particularly worse or better. So with that said, I feel like the only huge competition for Fnatic in that second place area is probably going to be Rogue, because Mad Lions is going through a bit of a mini rebuild. They've got some unproven talent coming in. But Rogue, I think, looks really strong to compete with them. But other than that, I would expect Fnatic top 3, top 4 pretty easily.
Absolutely. Jorge, would you agree with that sentiment? Do you think Fnatic are still going to be a good team, but possibly
the other
struggle
3, by the way, I'm aware Fnatic is replacing mid lane. I just realized.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that's an upgrade. So
yeah, absolutely. So Jorge, what do you think? Do you think these changes are going to work for Fnatic, or is it going to be, come 6 months from now, we're going to have Breaking Point Series 2 with Fnatic?
I agree that Fnatic is definitely can be a contender for second place. My main concern in general from the LEC as a whole is that I think that with Rekkles joining G2, the rest of the teams got weaker. So my main concern is that this G2 being that unbeatable super team that no one can contest, and they will just destroy everyone, the league can be boring in a sense that okay, G2 is this, because G2 is a team built for Worlds. Everyone is expecting to Smurf, but last year at least you have okay, G2 was the best team, but Fnatic had Rekkles, Mad Lions was a very good team, Rogue. So you still have teams that can compete. My concerns is that next year that won't be the case, because definitely Fnatic is going to be a weaker team without Rekkles, because for everything he was the face of Fnatic, the experience, that confident bot lane that you have. Now you don't have that. And you need to try new things. And now the problem is that it's not only that Rekkles is not longer in Fnatic, it's that Rekkles is now in G2. So that's my main concern for next year for LEC, because last year, we came from this split that everyone beats everyone, and it was super fun to watch. Week by week, it was very fun. The games were very fun to watch. And I don't know, maybe next year, if G2 starts smashing everyone and it's not even close, the league can be not so entertaining this time.
18-0 part 2.
Yeah,
something
yeah,
things
we
like
could well
that.
see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we'll just quickly fire through the rest of the LEC moves. So just a few seconds on each one, because while these are still interesting points, not so much when it comes to Rekkles and Perkz, for example. So Mad Lions have picked up Elyoya, and it is pretty much confirmed that they're getting Armut. These could be these could be good pickups to replace Arome and Shadow, who were arguably the weakest members of the team at Worlds.
Poor Arome, he got bodied by Armut, and then
just like, yeah, we're gonna go sign him.
Come on, what did Arome do? What did Arome do to Armut? Poor guy, but definitely an upgrade. Armut, he literally destroyed Arome, in all 5 games they played, right? The best of 5.
Yeah.
And I think Shadow as well, was exposed massively worse. Without carries, without an Evelyn, without listening, he's pretty much harmless. So yeah, actually pretty excited to see Elyoya, his name actually, right?
Yeah,
Elyoya.
Yeah. So he showed a lot of promise, as well as in national leagues. I think he played in the U Masters as well. So another rookie to fill up a roster that's he's getting more experience. So as usual, the Mad Lions are a very interesting team to follow next year.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What I'm curious about for Mad Lions is I am wondering for these changes, because they've said with Armut specifically that this wasn't something they decided because he slammed Arome at Worlds. This is something they were thinking about for a long time beforehand. I assume the same is true of Elyoya. And if that's true, then I'm curious how much Peter Dunn has his hands in there. Because I respect Peter Dunn a lot as a roster builder. He's built a lot of the Splice rosters over the last couple of years, pretty much every Splice roster but the original one. And I think he's proven himself to be a very talented talent scout. So if he is, I'm curious if Armut and Elyoya are kind of his last couple gifts to Mad Lions before he heads over to Evil Geniuses, or if that's a decision they made without him, because that kind of directly impacts how confident I am.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think it could be a really interesting roster to watch. I could maybe even, if they gel well, I can see this team top 3, if Fnatic start to lag a bit, possible top 2, because like we said, there's not going to be that much competition in EU. It's basically the fight for second. But yeah, speaking of a fight for second, Rogue have let Finn go, and he has gone to CLG, and they have signed Odoamne from Schalke. Jorge, what do we think? Is this an upgrade over Finn?
I honestly don't know. I don't think there is. Do you think it's upgrade?
I'm with we.
Yeah. I will trust you here, guys. I definitely. I mean, for me, I definitely like Rogue a lot. I definitely enjoy. I'm a huge Hansama fan. I love watching him play, and Inspire was also, a jungle. I definitely enjoy watching him play. And I hope it works. Again, for me, my concern is that the league is not interesting next year because everyone know who is going to win. And these battle for seconds leagues are not, are kind of can be boring. So I hope everything works for the rest of the teams and they can put a good fight.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Odo. Oh, go ahead, Rui.
Yeah, no, sorry. We are forgetting that we're talking about G2. They love to have their happy games here and there. So maybe they want to make everything a little exciting, kind of, by testing way too much. And they start, indirectly making things a little too exciting. So there's hope to that. And then they go to the playoffs and just 3-0 everyone, and they're like, it's boring again. So let's see.
I think that's really likely, actually. Because they still have Grabs a coach, correct? And I think they centered a lot of their 2020 season around trying to kind of min-max burnout and be like, we're not going to try these weeks, and then not try is unfair, but we're gonna take it a little easier in these weeks to make sure that we can peak at all the right times. And for the most part, that seems to have worked. I mean, they were able to. They lost early on in both of their double elimination playoffs, and then were able to turn it around, peak at the right time, and win later. So I suspect they will continue doing that.
Absolutely. So let's jump across the pond now, and start off with possibly
my favorite region.
Oh, absolutely.
Poor
Let's
guy.
start off with TSM.
You said it, not me.
Yeah. Yeah, let's start off with TSM just very quickly. So they've announced that SwordArt will be joining and DraftDiff will be retiring. This obviously leaves them in a bit of a precarious situation. Who do they get for their ADC? Because Lost is apparently going to, I think, Evil Geniuses. But that might now not happen because of DraftDiff leaving. But yeah, just in general, let's start with you, Jacob. What can we expect to see from SwordArt joining TSM? Just very quickly.
Well, so first of all, on the AD carry issue, if I recall correctly, I think Dominate leaked this a couple days ago, which is that the Lost for Huni deal is kind of in jeopardy because of that DraftDiff retirement. So I'm going to be operating from the assumption that it's going to be Lost, and then I think they just have to buy Huni anyway because nobody else will buy Huni. Every other team in the league has their top laner locked down. So, and I don't think Evil Geniuses are very interested in hanging on to both Impact and Huni. But as far in regards to how good SwordArt's going to be, I think a lot of people are really excited for this. A lot of people think he's immediately a top 2 support in the region. And while I do think that's true, I think people are getting a little bit too excited based off of the recent performance. I think a lot of people, haven't seen SwordArt since Flash Wolves, and then he popped back up to make a finals run with Suning, and people are like, oh, he's great. But from my understanding, as somebody who only really watched LPL playoffs, didn't watch the whole season, SwordArt is kind of rated a little bit lower than that in the LPL. He's not considered the best support in the region. And I don't really expect him to come in and be another core JJ to immediately win an MVP and be, by far the best player in the region. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I do think he's going to be a solid performer for this team.
Absolutely. And one thing that really came up recently was just how much this guy's going to be on. 2-year contract for $6 million. Yeah.
2 years too.
Yeah, 2-year contract.
We are real sports boys.
Yeah.
Holy
for better or for worse.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, Guy, where do you think this will leave the entirety of the LCS? Because everyone was talking about after Worlds, the salaries are so inflated. Stop paying people these insane salaries, and then TSM just go and drop 6 million on getting SwordArt. Do we think this is going to set the LCS back in the long run?
The problem with that, in salary inflation, is how you see how teams are founded in first place. When we compare, let's say, traditional back in Europe, football teams, who earn most of their money through let's say media rights or tickets, not this year, but and player transfers. And then we see how, let's say, League of Legends teams earn money pretty much through a VC injection. So it's a very artificial way of how teams are, of course, receiving resources to invest on. And with pretty much most teams, all teams receive huge injects of capital. It leads to this inevitable situation where people start teams start outbidding each other to buy star players, and we end up with Perkz on arguably $5 million buyout plus a huge salary. We end up on $3 million per year for SwordArt, and that's dangerous for the scene. EU understandably, has much lower salaries because of the number of rookies we have over there. So I'm not concerned about the EU. But NA, the point that investors start realize that it will take longer for them to see a return on their investment, and they start cutting off funding. It can be dangerous for the scene and can be it's a bubble. I think it's similar to let's say the famous .com bubble 20 years ago, and similar to other bubbles we have seen in the financial market in the recent past. I think it can be extremely harmful if someday suddenly the bubble bursts and push the salary down. It's not gonna kill the LCS, it's not gonna kill League of Legends by any means. It's just gonna be maybe a rude awakening to teams, and maybe finally they would need to be a little more responsible with the finances. At the same time, however, we don't have information about the finances, how much money is TSM making or losing per year? Like how profitable? Like, I don't believe that any team in NA is profitable, although TSM was saying that they have like a positive cash flow. Without like seeing the records, the balance sheet is hard to predict. We know that in EU Fnatic, like when they like announce like the crowdsourcing, you can see the information. They are at approximately like $5 to $6 million per year loss, and over like 2-3 years. So we can take that as a comparison. It's hard to say, like how much money actually they are losing right now.
Yeah. I
just hope that TSM knows what they're doing with like this huge amount of money being thrown at a player that you said, like you said, Jacob. He's good. He's a great player. Like SwordArt, like he played well, works. But is he everything that people like is hoping for? What's gonna happen if TSM goes towards and doesn't go past groups again? And even so, like paying $6 million for a player over 2 years, how much do you expect to get from this? You expect to get like a quarterfinal, same. You expect to win Worlds with SwordArt. That's like how you pay off this investment. I don't think like he's gonna be a huge change, like selling way too much merch. I think like Perkz, that's the right choice for that for C9. But like we need to see like what are some expectations by signing SwordArt for such an absurd amount. And
that's the, just to say a quick thing on that, that's the unfortunate situation that TSM I think kind of find themselves in year after year now, is that they can their whole identity is so based around winning and so based around being these NA champions that it feels like they can never take a rebuilding year. They always have to be like, oh, we need Huni and SwordArt right now because we need the biggest names we can get a hold of, and we can't, it'd be I feel like it'd be nice if we could like take a year to like try to develop some rookies and try to get Spica some more leadership experience, but that just can't. At least their management feels that can never happen.
Absolutely. And Jorge, just very quickly, with Doublelift leaving, where do you think we can expect to see TSM this coming year? They've obviously got a very strong support now, but they're missing a core part of their team, an ADC, and a lot of good ADCs at the moment are already spoken for.
Yep, it's not only ADC, it's also mid with Bjersen. So there's definitely the core of the team is now gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I get the idea of bringing a support like SwordArt that can be your new, shot caller and, bring this experience. I do agree with Guy and with Jacob that by this amount of money, the player that you are bringing to your organization needs to bring more than, stability or more than to be a new shot caller. It needs to be maybe, for example, like Perkz, you can say, okay, it can attract fan base from Europe because it's definitely like a god here in Europe. So you can, so yeah, I definitely don't know. I think it will depend how much SwordArt is going to be impactful in this team and how much Spica can evolve in this, short time. But definitely, I don't see, this amount of investment and TSM they are going to need to do a lot of things really good and very quickly. And also we need to see how Bjersen now as a coach, that there is so much change that all of that brings so much uncertainty. But then they are also spending so much money that, as Jacob say, they don't have a year to wait. If you are putting that amount of money, you are expected at least to win or to do good. So I think it's very tricky, the situation in which they are now and they are going to be for 2021.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some predictions very quickly. So obviously for me, I think Cloud9 are going to be top. I think as long as Fudge and Perkz land on their feet and settle quickly, Cloud9 are top easily. Team Liquid are obviously strengthened, So it might be a bit of a fight between those two. And I think we could honestly see FlyQuest in that conversation as well after some very strong pickups. So yeah, I think Golden Guardians look good. They they'll be good in a year or so. Team of rookies and Stixay. They could be very, very good in a year, but it will take time. This is a long-term project for the team. So yeah, should we start with you, Jorge? Where would you place each team in NA this year? Just a quick one.
Yeah, I agree. Top two are definitely Cloud9, Liquid. Then we need to see where TSM lands with the new rosters. I do hope for FlyQuest. I'm going to be rooting for FlyQuest next year because for specific reasons and jungle reasons. so yeah, I hope they can bring a good fight. And then I am not sure about the rest. I think we need to wait and see how all the rest of the teams evolve. But yeah, I like Closer going to 100 TIFF. I think that's very good move. I like Closer. I like watching him play. I think it will definitely improve the team. So maybe they are going to be a contenders. I don't know what the rest of you guys thinks about it.
Yeah, I can take it next because I think like regarding standings, the LCS can be more exciting than LEC. I think I personally believe highly on the, let's say, I'm a European fan, I'm European, so I kind of believed on the 11 LEC team this year. Of course we're talking about Team Liquid with 3 Europeans in the roster right now. I think they ended the year as the best NA team, despite not making from groups awards. They barely made, let's say, didn't qualify to quarters in a group with G2 and Sunny. And they pretty much improved the weak points during the season. I think Impact was exposed a lot after some glorious years in NA. But I think Alfari coming out, he's a major upgrade in a team that he played in a crap team Origin. This year was a catastrophe in all regards, and still the only reason why it wasn't even worse because of Far pretty much 1v9 in some of the games. And Santorini was the best jungler in NA last year, without a doubt. The guy, I think he's pretty much one of the biggest success stories in NA. The guy who came who struggled for most of his career. We we all know what happened when he was at TSM and other teams. But last year, FlyQuest, the guy just looked indeed you can see how much hard work he puts to improve as a player, and that showed last year. And I'm very excited for Team Liquid actually. I think they're slightly favorites when compared to C9, but internationally they can be actually the team that can actually do something for NA. Behind those two, we have, I think, kind of a similar level. I would say TSM. I also FlyQuest, as you mentioned, and 100 Thieves. I think 100 Thieves they picked 4 players from Golden Guardians, and they kept a Sunday. So they pretty much have a very solid team and with a much better top laner. So eyes on 100 Thieves. I think they're gonna be there. But yeah, and the rest, I don't know. Honestly, I think a little too early to say. I think teams like Immortals, I think Golden Guardians, even CLG, Broxa, I think it's a matter of waiting the first games to see and do a more decisive analysis.
Absolutely. And Jacob, just very quickly, I remember you saying you were quite interested to be able to talk about FlyQuest. If you could just give us that. Couple of minutes.
So just to talk about NA rankings, I find it easier to divide everybody into tiers, and I think that makes it a little bit clearer where FlyQuest is. I think TL and C9 are definitely hanging out at the top. I have C9 a little bit higher, but I think they're definitely probably on a different tier than everybody else. And then you kind of have your TSM, who's not really settled yet, your Evil Geniuses, who don't seem to be settled yet. I expect they either have an 80 carry figured out or they're just going to go reach out to Cody Sun. So I'm going to operate from the assumption that their 80 carry position will be a Cody Sun or equivalent level player. And then 100 Guardians, as Gui brought up already. The Golden Guardians roster plus someday that 100 Thieves is going to be fielding, I think are kind of comfortably in that second tier. And then I think FlyQuest has kind of the happiest situation. I think it's a really cool position to be in as an organization where they're bringing in this whole new roster, and I feel like they could almost end anyway and still like have FlyQuest as an organization be satisfied with their season. It feels like they could surprise everybody and make like a big run to like a 3rd or 4th place finish or make Worlds, and that would be really cool and something to build on. But they could also finish like 6th or 7th and still have like a workable core of 2 to 3 players who they've decided, they feel good going forward with. I think there's a lot of potential on this roster with, Licorice has never been off C9, but he's looked like one of the better top laners in NA for a long time. Excited to see Jose Diodo coming into a major region. And then excited to see Johnson develop even farther. I think Johnson is one of the best NA talents to come up in a while. He doesn't get the respect he I think deserves because he was on a pretty poor Dignitas roster last year. But Johnson is a guy who turned 18 and pretty much skipped Academy entirely. He played just a couple of games and then went straight into LCS with Dignitas and looked like one of their better performers. So I'm excited to see him come up. And then Palafox and Diamond just won back-to-back Academy splits. I don't know what else they can do to prove that they deserve a shot at LCS. So I think even if this team doesn't like who the performers on this team are going to be, who this team is going to work around and are going to be their main star players, I think it could be any of the 5. And I think how they're going to end up playing and stuff is going to be up to them, and it's going to be something really cool to find out.
Absolutely. So yeah, the next one is going to be a bit more cut and dry. I think we all sort of know whereabouts things are going to be in the LEC over in EU. But yeah, for me, I think G2 easily top. There is a chance that they could do that 18-0 because there's just not that much great competition that can be like, yeah, we will take the fight to G2. Fnatic could be pretty good and up there, but I think they might struggle. They might blow up. And if Mad Lions and Rogue's roster changes, their new signings, if they land on their feet really well, those two could be in the conversation for top 2 as well. Yeah, I don't really see XL or SK Gaming making playoffs. I'm not sure why SK let Crownshot, etc. go. And yeah, Astralis, that's a bit of a yikes.
That's a speed run to 10th team right there.
Yeah,
that's the 0-18. The G2's 18-0. I don't.
But yeah, Jorge, just very quickly, would you agree with this? Do you think we can see any team consistently taking games off of G2?
Well, my hopes is with Fnatic. And one thing we didn't mention is that Fnatic is bringing Yamato Cannon, which I think is a very good coach. I think that he can build this team, and if the synergy works, if there is someone that can, make this roster be able to challenge G2 is Yamato. So definitely I like it. I also like Schalke a lot. Maybe I love, storylines about the miracle runs and something. So I think, if Broken Blade adapts very well with Helios, they can work. And also I hope that Rogue can, put a good challenge. Those are the teams I think that can at least upset G2. But it's going to be a hard battle. They need to be at least, maybe I confident that maybe they can take G2 on playoff if they play really well, something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jacob, would you agree with this?
Yeah, I think as far as EU rankings go, I think it's going to be like everybody else. I have G2 as the heavy favorites, and then I think Fnatic and Rogue deserve to be on a very close tier. I think that Rogue roster proved a lot last year. I think the introduction of Trinity in support is going to be interesting, but I think Odo Omne is for certain an upgrade. I think below that I have Mad, just because I think their new players are a little less proven, but and you know the players they're replacing aren't. How would I describe it? Like I would say like Finn I think was a clear weak point on Rogue, and then like that upgrade I think just inherently makes me feel like they'll be better. Whereas like Shadow alternated between being one of the best players on that team and being one of the worst players on that team. So replacing him I feel is a little bit more hit or miss. Below that, I actually have SK, I think, a little bit higher than you do, Max. I have SK, I think, above Shulka. I have him right below those top 4. I think I'm really excited to see Tinks come in to the LEC. I'm really excited to see Tinks. I think Jezu and Treats are going to be an exciting bot lane. Blue showed a lot of promise over in Turkey, who's going to be their new mid laner. And Genax looked really, I think, developed a lot as a top laner after the role swap last year. So I'm kind of excited to see this team come together. I have them probably a bit higher than most. Also because, as I'm sure will earn me the disdain of many, I'm a bit of a Shulka hater. I'm not a big Shulka believer coming into this next season. So I actually have them pretty high. I have them right around with Shulka, I think, at that like 5th, 6th spot. And then below that, it's like there's XL, Misfits, Vitality, who I think are all going for the same strategy where they're like keeping together, I think, the best core players they could keep from the previous year, and then are just trying to build it up with rookies that they have picked up from EU Masters. And then there's Astralis, who has no money. And I expect them to do poorly.
Yeah, absolutely. And Guy, just finally with you, is there any team in EU that you can maybe see being a bit of a dark horse to, you know, take a couple of games off of G2 and give them a run for their money in a best of 5? Or is it going to be ridiculous, like, you know, G2 are just going to Goomba stomp absolutely everyone?
During the regular season, I don't think they're going to go 18-0. I think there's always going to be some happy games here and there, you know, where they sign it off. Happy games. They might even like not even make as first, you know. But playoffs do, I think it's gonna be very straightforward. I think they're not gonna even drop a series in these playoffs as opposed as this year. I think they should have everything it takes to dominate EU. For summer split, might change a little bit as teams get more experience. My concern originally was that EU was getting a little weaker with like so many players leaving for NA. But at the end of the day, we need to always believe, you know, and remind ourselves that has been the case in EU for the last years now. And the region always keeps revealing new talent. So as you as Jacob mentioned, we have Tinks coming in the jungle for SK, which is I think a massive pickup. They got just destroyed everything on EU Masters. I'm gonna keep like, you know, our eyes very close to this guy. I think he's gonna develop itself in a very, very good player, and maybe they'll tour in the spring split, but who knows for later on. I think the spring split is going to be like a business as usual. I think we can have like a Fnatic, like a Rogue, and Mad Lions, you know, potentially taking something out of G2, but, you know, Battle 5 scenarios, I think it's too hard. I think it's requires way too much from these teams to beat like such a star roster team, such as G2. And experience as challenging in Battle 5s. Like, you know, which team here can play Battle 5s as well as G2, who played with this roster, you know, I think it will be a little unfair. I think, yeah, I think G2 might drop some games here and there, but ultimately, when it matters, it's gonna be straightforward.
They're gonna,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I believe that's unfortunately about all we have time for today. So we will be back in a couple of weeks with the next episode. Hopefully, there'll be a lot more news like today and last time. Some nice spicy news to get our teeth into.
Hopefully we'll know who's on Vitality.
Yeah, fingers crossed. You know, it's not long until they lock in. At this point, they're just going to have to field a Clash team.
And that means that it's gonna get closer to, you know, draft or fantasy rosters, right?
Of course,
I'm excited actually to kick everyone's ass next year on our fantasy leagues.
I like the confidence, but the confidence will be false.
I still think who I should first draft. You know, like in the LEC, the LCS ones. I think there's a lot of candidates for a first draft, no position there, so it's gonna be exciting. You know, so
definitely
make sure to check out the DraftBuff app.
Yeah,
for definite. Yeah, give it a download. But yeah, so thank you to you all at home for tuning in. You know, without you guys, we can't do this. But also thank you to Guy, thank you to Jorge, and thank you to Jacob for making the time to come on today. It's been a pleasure having you on, Jacob, and hopefully we can work with you again very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a lot of fun coming on today, and yeah, hope to be back soon.
Brilliant. So yeah, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. See you later, guys.
Bye.